You don't want to keep this doctor away. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 236th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. If you missed number 235 with Jordan Harbinger, the Art of Charm founder, you want to go back and listen to it. What an interesting story. He started out as an attorney. Learned what it meant to be a rainmaker, learned the power of networking and influence and persuasion, ended up creating a course around dating. And I don't know, maybe you call him a pickup artist. He gets into a lot more than that, though. But now he has a very successful podcast that he has run for a long time. He's got a program that is full for months and months in advance that he runs out of L.A., but a great interview. He held nothing back. It was good catching up with him. Today we have Dr. Ron Eccles, the Success Doctor. I met Ron not too long ago, actually just last month, in a high-level mastermind I just joined. We meet in Tampa every quarter. Got an online portal where we network, share leads, and help each other grow. Speaking of growth, I'm recording this the day after the Oscars. And I guess there was a big mix-up. Warren Beatty read or was given the wrong card, kind of like Steve Harvey in the Miss America or Miss Universe or whatever. And so after the people came up and were given their, thank you speech, one of the guys that organizes the thing actually walked up on stage, said, "Hey, sorry, they were given the wrong card. No, this is not a joke." And someone else won the Academy Award for, I think it's for Best Picture. But now, of course, the internet is blowing up. Twitter's blowing up. Facebook's blowing up. And, it's one thing to have a hobby, right? To hang out and watch something for a little distraction. I like movies. I like Netflix and Amazon Prime, and got my Bose headset, wireless headset with a big family like this. I need it. And I still put closed caption on usually. And that'll be my distraction. I'll watch a movie, I'll watch a TV series, whatever. And even sports. I get into it sometimes, but it's rare that I can watch a whole game beginning to end uninterrupted. I'm not a great spectator. Right. And, I posted that online, that your competitors are glad that you are distracted by the Oscars. And then someone chimed in, "Yeah, I'll remind you that next time there's a football game on." And, there's a difference between, again, hanging out a little bit, having some downtime, watching a game, and getting back to work. But people live vicariously through these celebrities. And so this is something to keep in mind. A, make sure you're not being caught up in it. But B, understand that most people are. And how can you leverage that fixation, that fascination with celebrities and stardom to grow your own business? You do need to be careful not to get sucked in. I know at least in my case, I don't watch the Rose Bowl parade. I don't get up 6 a.m., watch it all day, then watch the bowl game, then talk about it online for days and weeks and years afterwards. I might turn on the game, have it on in the background. Usually, though, honestly, if I'm alone or, nobody's over, I may turn the game on and have them on all day long. But I'll probably have my laptop on my lap, making some blog posts, studying the analytics on my website, mapping out future episodes of the Sales Podcast, maybe tweaking some social media, maybe making some artwork. I'll tinker on my site on days that there's a football game on or something. So I will multitask in that regard instead of being totally caught up in it. Now, college football is kind of a hobby of mine. I do like talking some smack with buddies, but that's all it is. Right? I'm not living or dying by what a bunch of 20, 21-year-old kids do on a field. So there's always, two sides of the coin. I get it. But, man, you see the same people letting themselves get caught up in things that just don't matter, things that they don't have any influence over either. Again, I'm happy that you have a hobby if this is you, but you need to really check yourself and say, are the things that I'm doing, are they hobbies or are they obsessions? Are they taking away from my ability to grow my influence, my network, my net worth, because I'm jumping into things that just don't matter? That applies to politics. I was caught up in it for a while. And man, I have dialed it way back, and I'm telling you, life is so much more enjoyable now. Just ignore the rants, and there's people you don't have to unfriend them, just unfollow them, right? If all they do is throw rants out there. It really is a distraction, and your competition really is happy that you're caught up in things that don't matter. We don't have much time on this earth. We certainly don't have much time in business to get stuff done, to make an impact, to find a new technology, to find a new opportunity and leverage it, take fast action, go hard and fast at it to turn it around into an advantage for you. Because sales is a zero-sum game. If you are 1% better than your competition, you get 100% of the commission. So look at how you spend your time, your energy, your focus, your efforts, and really give yourself a gut check, right? And say, are you doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done? Or are you allowing yourself to be distracted? Because look, there are very smart people working for Facebook, working for these television stations. They're very smart about influence and persuasion and who knows what, hypnosis and mind control even. I don't know about that for sure, but I'd be willing to bet they got some smart people in these areas working for them. That's why you see television ads now. They change like every second to 3 seconds because they've learned that people get distracted quickly. There was something on, I think just yesterday, and I had the volume down because usually on sports, I just keep the volume down. I don't need to hear the commentators. I just see the play if it's any good. And again, I'm half the time I'm heads down to my laptop working on things, and if it's any good, I'll rewind it, right? But I have it the volume down, and I think it was a Carl's Jr. ad, and it was crazy. It was psychedelic. It was flashy. Just images changed at least every second. It was really quite alarming, especially to see it with no volume. But I study this stuff, right? So I know that's what they're doing. They're trying to keep your attention. They're trying to get you to look up from your iPhone and your iPad and your laptop because they understand most of us are watching 2 to 3 screens at a time. We'll turn the game on, even a TV show. We'll have our laptop on our lap and our phone sitting next to us. So as soon as there's a commercial, we change our focus, shift our focus to an email or a social media, Twitter thread or what have you. So they're doing everything they can to keep you focused on the television, on the ad, because that's how the television channels, right, make their money, is selling ads. And people will only buy ads if they can get the ad to work. If it can get your attention, they have a call to action. And if that call to action actually works, drives you to their website and gets you to redeem a coupon or what have you. So they're very smart people evaluating what needs to be done to steal your attention. I wrote a blog post a long time ago, and I talk about this regularly, but notice what you notice. Detach yourself and say, why did that ad, why did that television ad, sponsored post on Facebook, email, direct mail piece, why did that get my attention? And then break it down. And then look at your market and say, what does your marketplace have in common with you? And if you have a similar persona to your ideal clients and prospects, then figure out how to make that ad, or at least the components of that ad, work in your own ads. And that can be tough to do. But once you learn it, it's become second nature. I'm always studying ads. I'm ripping ads. Like when I fly, Southwest Airlines, when I usually fly, I'll rip ads out of the magazine. I don't want to carry the whole magazine. So I'll rip the pages out, make a little note. I always carry a Sharpie pen. I got a fat Sharpie pen, and I've got a fine point Sharpie pen, so I can write on business cards, so I can write on magazine covers, and I'll fold them up, put them in my notebook. And then I'll review those later. You've got to have a swipe file, right? That's what we call it in journalism and copywriting, in design, right? You have a swipe file. You swipe things that tickle your fancy, that pique your curiosity. So you can look at them later. You're not going to swipe the entire content, but you're going to swipe the inspiration. You're going to model the work that you do based on things that you've seen others do, okay? So create your own swipe file of images, of sayings, of email templates, of ad templates. That way you can create better, more effective content faster. So a lot going on there, right? Just make sure you are in control of your mind. And we'll get into that in this episode. If you need some help with that, you need to surround yourself with better friends, more influential friends. Check out Make Every Sale, makeeverysale.com. It is a fraction of a sliver of a slice of what I'm paying for this mastermind. And you can do this. You can participate fully from the comfort of your home. It's on-demand content. It's videos. It's scripts. It helps you overcome objections, prevent objections from ever coming up. It gives you templates for your own content creation. But the most important thing, two things. One is it's lifetime access. So as I make updates to this, as I release modifications or just bonuses, you get them all. But the other thing is we have a private group where you can get real-time support. Throw a question out there. Chances are it'll be answered. People will start helping you within hours, if not within minutes, including me. So 9 days out of 10, I'm not traveling, in a typical week. And so I can answer questions. And I'd rather answer them publicly for everyone to see, or at least semi-publicly, right, in our group. So I'd rather answer it for the group to see rather than do one-on-one, because one-on-one just doesn't scale, and I have to charge a whole lot more for one-on-one time. So if you want to get control of your time, your energy, your focus, your thoughts, and you want both tactics and strategies on how to become more effective in sales, then please join us, makeeverysale.com. Check that out, and then when you come back, you can jump right into this interview with Dr. Ron Eccles. Dr. Ron Eccles, the success doctor, all the way from Bradenton, Florida. Did I say that right?
You did. Absolutely great.
All right, man. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
Wes, I'm doing awesome, and thank you so much for having me here.
Hey, it was great meeting you at the mastermind, and it was like good and bad, right? I hung out with you for 2 days, but we were across the room and really hardly got to hang out. So it's kind of crazy how you can spend 60 hours with somebody, but not really get to hang out with them.
Yeah, my wife said to me, she said, because she only came for the first day, and the second day she said, did Wes speak? She goes, he was so quiet, he didn't say anything the first day. And I said, no, I actually spoke, and he's really good. He's very animated, and he's got a lot of energy.
People listening to this would be like, did somebody take over Wes's body? Because that doesn't sound like him. But yeah, like they say, it's better to keep quiet and have them assume you're a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt.
All doubt, yes, sir.
Yeah, and especially being my first time in that group, I never want to show up and try to come across as a know-it-all. You know what I mean? It's like there were a lot of smart people in that room, and I really just wanted to take it all in.
Well, one of the things I really appreciate about that group is that for the last number of years, most of the groups I go to, I'm the oldest guy in the room. And there was a few other people, they're older than I am. So I'm really glad about that. That made me feel good.
I know. You got to like it.
And just for the listeners, I'm not that old. It's just getting scary. The talent and the brilliance is getting younger and younger.
You got some young groupies just following you around and joining every group that you're in.
Yeah, it's the illusion in my own mind.
So for our listeners that may not be familiar with your work, and we'll dive into it, but could you give us, in a minute or two, a little thumbnail sketch of your background, and we'll dive down the rabbit hole?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing most people are impressed with the most, and shouldn't be, but I'm a doctor of chiropractic by background with a diplomate in orthopedics, diplomate in neurology, and a board eligibility in sports injury.
Wow.
From that area, about 10 years into practice, at the height of my career, I shattered my wrist, retired from practice. I could no longer do the main functions of my job. And I lectured postgraduately for about 4 different chiropractic colleges for about 3 to 4 years. And then something dramatically changed. I wound up buying a restaurant from a former patient of mine who I was good friends with, moving my family from Florida to Pennsylvania. And I remained there for about 16 years, 10 of which I was in a restaurant business. Then I went into real estate investing and then found my passion and my love, and that was 2 things: being a professional speaker and more in the motivational business and leadership area, and then coaching entrepreneurs on how to grow their businesses and how to become very successful. Because my passion, and really if I could back up the whole time, my passion for learning what made people and businesses successful began when I was 20 years old. It was 38 years ago. And my hunger has only grown each and every year subsequently. So
you had this fire in your belly when you were 20. Did you just kind of bury it?
No. You know what happened was I was one of those kids, and I say it as a joke, but it's very true. I made the top half of the class possible. That was all the way up through my freshman year of college. Then after that, I discovered that I had to work twice as hard as everyone else to achieve excellence in school. And that's what I began to do. And I realized all I had to do was put the effort in, work within the talents that I had, and I could begin to achieve. And that began a drive in me to achieve and become successful, because I was never academically successful. I was okay in sports, but more martial arts was my thing. I wasn't a big ladies man, so I wasn't involved in drug culture. So I wasn't a popular kid in high school. I had a small group of friends, and that was it. And I realized that my inability to achieve was not a genetic fault. It was an effort fault. And once I learned how to navigate around that and discovered what made other people like me and other people successful, well, it began a hunger inside of me to learn that and spend a lifetime learning, because now I spend my time helping other people become successful. So I never stop learning and gathering information from the brightest minds and the best people, so I can then apply it to my clients.
Right. Very cool. So did you still kind of bury it or set it aside like as a chiropractor, or were you using it to grow a successful chiropractic business, and then you were forced to redirect your energies when you got injured?
No, actually, I was at the top of my game. I was as a single practitioner. I had one other doctor working for me at the time. I retired from practice, and I did close to $1 million a year in business as a sole practitioner. Now, that was a really substantial amount of money in the world back in the early 90s. So I did extraordinarily well, but I had to work. I worked through a lot of figuring out what didn't work to actually discover what did work, and
right.
continually built a very successful practice. Cool. I used that same energy when I went into the restaurant business. Again, I started out at the bottom. I bought a restaurant doing $8,000, $9,000 a week in business, and built it up to doing close to $30,000 a week in business.
Wow.
Over 10 years. And then I got tired of working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or having that on my mind. So I sold the restaurant, cashed out, and then began down the road of figuring out what made wealthy people wealthy. And I discovered real estate was an incredible way to take what you have earned and make it work for you. Now, I still do dabble, and I work in the real estate world, but out of that world, I discovered that I had a talent and a passion for speaking in public, motivating and inspiring people, and then teaching other business owners how to actually achieve more with less time and less money, so they can increase their profitabilities and live a very fruitful life outside of business. All
right. Well, we got to dive into 2 things then. So number one, So a lot of my listeners are aspiring speakers, and I say aspiring because they struggle to get booked. Do you have any tips or tricks on how to break into that world?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. I have discovered that does not work. The speaking services, they sign you up, you pay some money, and then they tell you they're going to take a percentage of what you get. And it's a very fair percentage, but I've never seen one gig ever. So I tell you, the number one strategy is about developing your network of people you know. Now, there's a guy who has a course you can get online, or a home study course, James Malinchak. It's a great program on speaking and colleges and stuff. But the great principles that are inside of it. Now, there are other great speaking coaches and programs. You can go online, Google them, and check them out. Michael Port, Book Yourself Solid, has a speaking program. There's a number of great and brilliant individuals out there that you can learn from. But networking is the absolute key to getting on stages and getting booked. It's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. Right. Old cliche, but very true. And it's about building equity in a relationship with those people. And then at the same time, honing your craft so you become better and better at speaking in public, continuing to, again, sharpen the saw, as Stephen Covey would say, so that when you do get your opportunities, you perform well and you're invited to come back over and over again.
So do you recommend following the free path in the beginning? I mean, because it's like the chicken and the egg, right? I can recommend you once you get some experience. If you can't get any experience, you get recommended. So do you hit the chambers of commerce and the Rotaries of the world and just speak? Well,
there's two different formats, and I'll explain each one of the benefits of both. Number one is you can go speak on other people's stages or other people's platforms, whether it's groups like the Rotary Clubs or the Chamber of Commerce's. And that's a great idea because you don't have to actually build your own platform. You already go find one where they're looking for speakers, and you can go online and Google all the different organizations in your area, contact every one of them, figure out what people want to hear, have your niche written out, and you send it to them, and you work hard following up so that you can get yourself booked. And typically it might take 6 to 8 months to get on their itinerary, but the more work you do now, the more business you'll have later on.
Right.
That's one way. So in other words, finding other people's platforms and getting on them, and speaking for free in the beginning until you have something worthwhile to be able to talk about. And I'll just to take a little side tour here. Get published, get your own book. That's one of the keys. That is the entry level right now to getting on stages. Create a book, get a good book, get it published. You're not looking to make money on the book, but the book is your introduction to a place to get to speak. Second one is create your own platform. Creating your own platform is booking a room at a hotel, doing some marketing and driving people to an event, but you must have a plan. You just don't want to invite people, pay money, and then say, hey, come listen to me speak for free, and then they leave there and you've made no money. All you did was spend money. That's not a good business model. So you have to figure out, are you going to use speaking to build a back-end portion of your business, or are you going to be a speaker who gets paid to speak? Now, that's a different situation. That would follow the first path. You're going to go on other people's stages. In the beginning, you'll probably go at one of two routes. You'll either go to an event, get invited to come and speak, where you might have a product you get an opportunity to offer to the people in the audience. Now, typically in those venues, the promoter, the person whose stage you're on, will get 50% of your sales. That's typically how it works.
Yep.
Or you go as a paid speaker. You get paid to keynote, or you get paid to speak somewhere, and it's a flat fee, and you don't sell anything. So again, when you're going to someone else's platform, there's two directions. You go and sell something to get paid, or you get paid just to be there.
Right. And is it kind of just a personal preference?
Well, I can tell you that in the grand scheme of things, the average person will make more money if they have a back-end product to sell and they go somewhere and they get good at selling from the stage. And that takes a certain skill set. It's not being a speaker. Being a speaker is one thing. Learning how to sell from the stage is a whole nother skill set.
Right.
So you need to learn how to do that. Now, that has the highest potential profit for most people.
Right.
Some people don't want to do that. They'd rather be someone who says, I want to go get paid. But that road, I believe, is a little bit longer because you have to develop credibility and you have to have a desired want from other people to go and fill that need and willing to pay you for it. So you might get paid very little in the beginning, but to get to the big bucks, to $25,000 for a speaking opportunity or 50, you're really going to have to work hard, and it's probably a lot more years down the road.
Right. Sure. All right. So that's the speaking side. Now, what are you doing with entrepreneurs and business owners? What are you seeing as like a common, repeat offenders that come to you that are looking to get unstuck? What mistakes are they making?
Number one, that's a great question. That's a super question, Wes. And it's really funny. I tell people that as a coach, I have really drawn upon my background in healthcare. One of the great tools for a good diagnostician is to ask the questions, listen for all the symptoms, and then sort through the symptoms to come to the cause of the problem.
Right.
When I coach and I work with people, and again, when I work with people in business, there's always a spillover to their personal life because you cannot separate the two. I believe you build a better you build a better business. And there are just really a relative handful of problems most people get stuck on. And most people get stuck, and this is going to like the 3,000-foot view. Most people get stuck in areas of life or in business based upon patterns of behavior they've developed in life that sabotage them from achieving everything they should achieve. Now, let me give you a specific example. Number one is most people will have very poor, and as an entrepreneur, very poor discipline on how to manage or master their time effectively. One of the greatest challenges most people have is they don't know how to utilize time properly to their advantage. Time is the greatest asset we all have, and you can't make any more of it. You can only spend it, but you can't make any more of it, unlike money. So learning how to be, and this is the real key, learning how to be productive during the use of your time in the day versus being busy is a real key. So developing strategies and developing the skill, literally it's an acquired skill. If you're not good at it right now, you can get better.
Okay.
It just takes a matter of, do you want to? Then how do you go about doing it? A number of years ago, I created a product, an online product. I still have it today called the Rock Solid Success System. And in there's an entire module on time mastery, on how to understand time and how to actually make time work in your favor so you get more done in less time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
well, we won't steal any of that because we'll have to link to that so they can go get it, right?
Well, I'll give – listen, I believe that if you give freely, people always come and do business with you because you're always willing to give more and more. I apply what's called the Pareto principle. If most people are familiar with it, but if you're not, It's the 80-20 rule. So 20% of the things you do will give you 80% of your results. So if we're looking at time or money, it follows the same template.
Right.
So if we look at our time that we're spending in a week – and we look at the 20% that gives us our maximum results, the more focused we will become on that 20% or the 20% of that 20%. The more we dial that in, now we're moving into very highly productive time. Right. So I always ask people this, how much you're worth per hour? Sit down and figure it out. Because if most people add up how much money they made in a year, how many hours they worked, you divide the two into each other, and you get an hourly wage. Now you think to yourself, okay, here's what I really believe I'm worth. And it's usually much more than that. So now your goal is, how do I work on projects and things that will pay me that amount per money and then pay other people to do the things that are less per hour? I find entrepreneurs will commonly do $10 an hour jobs when they believe their time is worth $250 to $550 to $850 an hour or more.
Right.
And yet they're doing it the same way over and over again, doing things they should be paying other people to do. So that's a really common problem with entrepreneurs.
Well, and the problem I've run across is I am constantly let down by people that I bring in to free up my time. Good grief. I mean, people, they all start out great. Then you find out that, they have ulterior motives or whatever. So, I mean, what's the secret to keeping people productively working for you?
Well, I'll say two things. Number one is we have to get better at selecting the right people for positions. There's some really good books written on this, but in Good to Great, Collins talks about putting the right people in the right seats on the bus. Now, there's many ways to do that. There's a number of different profiles you can put, but people can game themselves through certain things. And here's what I want to distinguish. People can be extremely qualified, but not the right person for your company culture.
Yep.
People could be the right person for your company culture, but be very unqualified. So you need to have both match up.
Sure.
Here's the general rule that I teach. You must hire, fire, promote, and reward based upon the core values of your company. And most entrepreneurs have never sat down and actually penciled or penned out their core values and then printed them, listed them, and make everybody aware of them in their company. But when you do that, now you have the litmus test to hire, fire, promote, and reward. That's where it begins. The second thing is that our expectation has to be that they're going to be excellent for our company. Now, here's the scientific proof behind that, because one of the things I'm really adamant about is I'm always looking into science to see what bears out and what's true and what's not. So Dr. Rosenthal did one of the greatest studies on expectations we can ever cite. He went into a school system, took some research colleagues. What they did was they tested all the children in a school system. Then what they did was, after they had the metrics and measurements on these kids' ability to perform, they went to the teachers and they said, we've identified who the superstars in your classes are going to be. Here's the deal. Here's the superstars. And they gave them a file on them. They said, now here's the key. You cannot share anything with these other kids. You can't talk to any of the teachers about it. And you are not to give these kids any extra attention or special training. You're to treat them like everybody else. And what they discovered was some controls in place. Over a period of a year, they retested the entire student body, and guess who were the ones that performed the best in all areas? Well, it was this group that they identified as superstars. In other words, it held true from what they predicted. Now, what was the interesting thing was that they went back to the teachers and said, by the way, all the kids we told you that were superstars were average kids. We just randomly selected a group of kids and told you they were superstars, but when we tested everybody, it was normal across the board. So what happened? The expectation of the teacher, even at a subconscious level towards those children, caused them to excel and outperform all their peers. So one of the transfers in that information is that when we, first of all, pick the right people, then we set them up with an expectation to perform really well. They'll actually be able to perform much better.
Yeah, that's awesome. When was that? I'm trying to write this down. Dr. Rosenthal, you said?
Dr. Rosenthal, and I can't tell you the year of the I can look it up, but I don't have that at my – I wish I could remember all those facts. But
I'll look it up and link to it because you're right. They say you must inspect, what you expect, right? But you do, I cover that, raise your level of expectations of everyone around you, including your family, your friends, your vendors, even your customers. It's like, hey, you're going to act a certain way, or I don't have to take your money.
Yes.
So stop putting up with stuff. You get more of what you tolerate. Right? So, man, that's awesome.
By the way, that information comes out of a couple books, but one book that I can cite for you right now is called Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini from the University of Arizona.
Yeah.
And also in that book, he does cite a lot of other research that's very powerful. One I teach all the time, and you just mentioned it. It's called the principle of commitment and consistency. When we raise the level of commitment, whether internally with ourselves or externally on someone else, the natural behavior is to drive upwards to reach that level of commitment. So when you set the level of commitment, when you tell your people, I believe in you, I know you can do this, I know you're going to be excellent at this, you actually set them up and you drive their internal bar upwards, and then the behavior begins to rise to actually meet that. So when you begin to tell your children how you believe they're capable of behaving and performing, your spouse, your coworkers, your team, you will actually set them up for better success. You'll drive the momentum towards what you are wanting to create in them.
Right. That's awesome. So in your coaching, is it ongoing? Is it more like short, intensive sort of bursts? How do people typically get better when they work with you?
Well, one of the things I do is in the beginning, I work with entrepreneurs who are looking to take their businesses to the next level. Now, my one-on-one I can only deal with. It's not a very scalable business for me, but fortunately for me, I don't need it to be very, very scalable. So I keep a stable of one-on-one clients, and I work with them typically in the beginning 1 hour a week for about the first 3 or 4 months, and then I back it down to once every other week because they're less needy. In the beginning, it's about identifying where their problems are at. Then I take them through a 5-step process. Number 1, helping them to discover how to uniquely position their marketing in a way that blows their competition out of the water, that speaks only to the people that their ideal clients. It's a special, unique way I have of sorting through that and helping them to have the most powerful marketing platform possible for themselves. The second part is taking them through a business operating system that has been proven to be one of the more successful operating systems for entrepreneurs up to certain numbers of employees. It's usually in the hundreds to 1,000. Very, very effective. Number 3, I show them how to craft an experience through the process to increase the lifetime value of their clients and the referrals. Referrals are a key to free business without having to go pay for more.
Yeah.
I teach them how to build a really powerful company culture that makes it fun to work there or work with you, and sets the stage to make people want to line up to be part of that and stay with you.
Right.
Then the last one is area I spend my life just submersed in, and that is how to develop a positive mental attitude that's tenacious. You wake up every day fired up, ready to go, wanting to take on the world. When things get tough, you respond in a different way than most people do. There's 3 ways to navigate through crises or circumstances. Some people, their mapping takes them down, right? Then they just keep going. They keep getting worse. Some people, their mapping takes them in a circular loop, the cycle of insanity. Then other people, their internal mapping just naturally say, I'm plotting a way to come to a better place through this situation.
Right.
And so that's one of the things I work on, the actual methods to produce and cultivate that positive mental attitude every day in your life. Because for most people, it's not natural.
Right. We're just filled with negative head trash, right? I mean, why is that? Why is our default setting negative?
2 reasons. Number 1, the environment around us is generally negative because negative is what sells. If you watch the news, it's filled with negative, way more negative than positive. People have a tendency to be more negative than positive. And the reason is the part of the brain that has been developed in us for survival. So if we take us out of the common environment today and we go back 1,000 years or 2,000 years, and we were a group, you and I and there's a couple of people out there listening, we're part of a tribe, and let's say we men are out hunting, right, to bring home food, and we hear a noise in the bush around us. That part of our brain says, pay attention. It could be a bear getting ready, or a lion getting ready to come out and eat us. It could be an enemy tribe looking to attack us. Our brains would scan the environment looking for the negatives as a matter of survival. We do the same thing today. We're looking for the negatives, but we don't really have the need that we had 1,000 or 2,000 years ago for the most part in the society we're speaking about.
Right.
So that part of the brain has to be – you have to learn how to rewire the brain and override old processes so that you can learn how to become more positive. We know this, that science shows, and I could go through a bunch of studies, but essentially the more positive you are, the more your brain opens up to look for the information that's already there. And the more negative you are, the more of what's already there you will miss because your brain is not designed to look to find it.
So basically, instead of you are what you eat, you're saying you are what you think.
Well, you know what? Both are true, right? And I always tell people, I said, would you think about going for a week or 2 weeks or a month without eating? And most people go, I don't want to go, I don't want to miss one meal. And I said, then why would you not, if you want to grow your spiritual life, or you want to grow your business mind, why would you not feed it regularly? You want to be more positive, you got to feed what's going to make you more positive on a regular basis.
Yep. That's why I don't miss a single episode of The Bachelor or Real Housewives of Orange County.
Look, I love TV like everyone else, but my wife and I only watch TV in the evening before we go to bed. We only DVR the programs we want because we like to blast through the commercials and not waste time and not fill our heads with stuff. So we're very selective about what we watch, and then we make sure we get through the commercials to ignore them. And now I will watch some commercials occasionally if I see a brilliant one because, again, I look at commercials from the standpoint of how they're using principles of influence to get people to buy.
Right.
Dr. Cialdini, when he wrote that book years ago, I'd heard so many people quoting so many different parts of that book in different places, but nobody ever took the time to really unpack it and explain it. So what I did was I looked up all the research that's in the book. I went through and I did a deep dive. Then I came out and I recorded about a 4 to 5 hour program called Triple Income Academy, how to get people to say yes, and created a product from it because to me it was like this. You cannot afford, if you're in business, you cannot afford not to know the psychological drivers that are scientifically proven that get people more likely to say yes to you than not.
Right. Yeah, and I get into that in my sales training. I mean, people are very predictable. One-on-one, as you engage with somebody, you can create responses in them. I'm doing tonight. I'm doing some sales training for some friends of mine that just bought a gun store. And an example I always give in retail is like if you come walking into my store and I walk up to you and I say, "Hey, welcome to Wes's gun store. How can I help?" 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to tell me what?
I'm just looking.
Right? And then it's little bitty things. And instead, if I just say, "Hey, welcome to Wes's gun store, what brings you in today?"
Right. Now it's a question, opens up a different part of the brain.
Yeah. Now you have to tell me. You got to think of something.
Right.
And usually people aren't very good liars, especially but right on the spot, right? You catch them cold turkey before they can rehearse it, and they're going to tell you the truth. Now you can have an open and honest dialogue. And it may just be, hey, I dropped my kid off next door. He's, in karate, or, my wife's getting her nails done. I just want to kill some time. Hey, great. Wander around. I won't pressure you. So people are so predictable. If we just take the time to study that, right, and just understand there's a process to everything, and either work your own or you're going to be worked by theirs, right?
That's exactly right. Well, you just said something brilliant, because depending upon how you approach somebody and what you say, you're either going to get caught up in the outer portion of the brain, the cortical brain, which is processing stuff and gives them an ability to be confused or to make an excuse to get away.
Right.
But when you learn how to speak directly to the emotional part of the brain, you really are able to connect with people in a way and if they're your ideal client, it's going to immediately resonate with them.
Yeah. Amen. All right, man. Final question I've been asking. So imagine our listeners are jogging, they're on a plane, they're on a bike. They can't do anything right now other than listen. What do you want them to do? What action should they take the moment they get to their desk, the moment they get off the plane and they can take action? What should they do to grow their business, grow themselves, grow their sales, just grow their lives?
I'm going to give them a formula. And I tell people, I call this life's secret success formula. And I want them to just get to their desk, write this down, commit it to memory, and own it, because they've been following it their whole lives. Just whether they are able to harness it or not has been outside of their grasp because they didn't understand it. So I want them to write down these 4 letters: ITAR, ITAR. I've been teaching this for a long time. It's nothing new under the sun, right?
Yep.
However, it's just a way of packaging it, making us easier to understand so we can apply it.
Yep.
And here's what I want people to understand. I'm going to start with the end of the formula. How much money you have, where your spiritual life is at, what your relationships are like, and what your finances are all about, right, are all in the results area. It's nothing more than a result. You don't like your results, you're not happy with your results, you want better results, then you need to just go back one step in the formula to the letter A, and then you begin to work there. And A stands for actions. It's the day in and day out actions you take that lead you to your results. They produce your results. Some people might call actions habits. They're the same thing. But the ones you take are going to be one of 3 kinds: good, bad, or neutral. Empowering, disempowering, or neutral. And our goal is to retrain ourselves to create empowering habits or actions on a daily basis. All right, so if we know that good or empowering habits or actions lead us to our results, what actually can lead us to having powerful, empowering actions? And if we go back one letter, and it's T. It's about our thought process, our thought lives. We spend our waking days in a thinking world. Inside of our brain, we got thoughts going on all the time. And if we can condition ourselves to have really powerful thoughts, more positive thoughts, then we're going to stack the deck in our favor to actually create better actions, which will give us better results. So our thinking, the predominant thinking, leads us to our predominant actions, creating our results. Now here's the key. The letter I. It stands for influences. What influences will you allow in your life? And I want to repeat that again. Will you allow in your life? What books will you read or not read? Will you hire somebody like Wes to help you do business and do it right? Or will you try doing it on your own? Are you going to hang out with knuckleheads? Or are you going to hang out with people who are looking to go somewhere and do something? Or people who share your moral values or your principles in life? People that are going to help you move to a better place. What seminars are you going to attend or not attend? See, all these things are going to massively influence what your thinking is all about.
Right.
If all you do is things that you surround yourself with stinking stuff, you're going to get stinking thinking, as Zig Ziglar would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get some actions that you're not going to be happy with, and you're definitely not going to be impressed by your results.
Right.
But when you learn this formula and you own this formula, now you go back and you begin to control your influences. It impacts and grows your thinking the right way. You begin to take better actions, and in time, those better actions compound into massively beneficial results.
Right. All right. ITAR it is.
Beautiful.
I like it. All right. And we will link to you. Best place for people to find you is conquermyeverest.com.
Yeah, that's a great website that a friend of mine put together. I've got a little bit of work to do on it, even though it's a robust website. I'm going to have a new call to action so people can contact me. So to bypass that for now, here's what I want people to do. If you want to reach, if you're a business owner and you're looking to find out if you need a business coach like me, contact me to set up a complimentary session together so we can figure out how I can best serve you and if it's possible for me to serve you. So number one, go to drroneccles@gmail.com. That's DRRONECCLES@gmail.com. drroneccles@gmail.com.
Thank you, sir. And we will link to that. You can get the show notes and everything at thesaleswhisperer.com/session236. And you can listen to this again. You can get the notes that we took from this show and link to everything that he's mentioned. Well, Dr. Ron Eccles, thanks for coming on the Sales Podcast, man. It's been awesome.
My pleasure, Wes. Thank you very much. And thanks everyone out there.
All righty. Have a great day.
You too, brother.
I love it when he said that he wasn't a great student, right? And he made the top half of the class possible. I've heard that the C students hire the B students to manage the A students. And that's true to a large degree. I see it quite often with entrepreneurs, people that weren't great students, not because they weren't intelligent, they just weren't motivated. They didn't find something that lit their fire. When you look at the education system, give me a break. Why is the government involved anyway? But, it really hasn't changed in 150 years. Our education system is outmoded, outdated. It's great at teaching kids how to sit down when they hear one bell, stand up when they hear two bells, form a single file line when they hear three bells. It just doesn't, it's not preparing our kids. But anyway, I digress. But once Ron found his motivation, he excelled. But then, you're a chiropractor and you got a broken wrist, shattered wrist. Well, it's kind of tough to be a chiropractor. So how do you make that change? A lot of people would use that as an excuse to be mediocre and suffer, really, for the rest of their lives. But he didn't. He found other interests. He found other ways to grow. But he also, found other ways to invest his money. So like I told my son, he recently sold a Jeep. He likes Jeeps. He's wants to make money repairing and flipping Jeeps, right? Not literally flipping them in the dirt, which he hasn't done yet, thank goodness. But, he's waiting tables or he's bussing right now at P.F. Chang's, and he wanted to make a little extra money. So he bought a Jeep, and he sold it and made like $3,000 on it. So he did a great job with that. And I told him, don't eat your children. He was like, what are you talking about? And the profits you make from an investment are your children. Most people, if they go make $3,000, then they would go spend $3,500 on stupid stuff, right? Clothes, maybe a new stereo, big TV, computer, and then the children are gone. So ideally, you take the children, the investments, the profit, and roll it into another investment. So then your children have grandchildren, and the grandchildren have great-grandchildren. So don't eat your children. And so Ron learned that lesson as well, right? He plowed his profits into other areas and then became an expert in those areas. And then he reinvented himself again into his current job and role as a success coach and speaker and motivator. And so it was good meeting him, good hanging out. I hope you took a lot from this interview. He literally held nothing back. The guy you hear in this interview, the same guy I hung out with for 3 days in Florida last month. And that's why I had him on the show. So great guy. You can get all the notes, the links to his website and everything if you missed it at thesaleswhisperer.com/session 236. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I keep mentioning, join me at the Make Every Sale program. If you want to hang out with me regularly online, get your questions answered in real time or darn near real time, certainly very quickly, at a fraction of the cost it would cost you to get me one-on-one. Join it now before I raise the price. MakeEverySale.com. Thanks for listening. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, and remember to sell different.